How are you doing? I mean, I hope the stress test is not adding to your stress, sir.
Uh, Not really. I'm still kind of working out the reasoning behind the stress test. But let's see what the results come out. Because stress testing the number of days, if markets fall, it's then the liquidity, right? And I'm not sure how it all pans out. This is what I would say. I think on the way up, we tarred everything with the same brush. Everything rose, and we're doing the same on the way down. So those good companies, in good sectors with strong fundamentals, nothing's really changed. But as markets have gone up, we've talked about this before. You've asked me about PSUs, and I said, I wasn't convinced on the narrative that everything's changed so well that I need to be there. So, when you talk about the falls for this week, you've got to remember that most of the indexes are up, what, 40, 50, if not more percentage over the past year. So no bad thing taking a little bit of froth away from some of those companies that possibly shouldn't have gone up in the first place.
And do you reckon that all this fuss over the mutual fund stress test is getting a little bit out of hand? I mean, I was reading this interview from one of the top voices in this space. I mean, they were clearly of the opinion that the market is obsessing over these results, but the regulator, I mean, is just asking for basic information. According to this person, the stress test fund, the stress test that fund houses do are actually, way more tougher than what the SEBI is actually asking for. So, I mean, sure, putting this stress test out in public, in the public forum is good as far as transparency goes. But do you think, it's making everyone overly cautious?
Yeah, I'm not sure how to until we see the results. It's difficult to kind of comment on this. But if I'm investing in a small cap fund or a mid cap fund, I'm taking a 3 to 5 year view. On these companies, because the small or mid-cap companies now, and you're hoping that over time the fund manager would pick out the right ones, which will become larger caps over that period, and therefore you make money within the fund. So I think if you take that view, then and work on the basis that the companies which are chosen are fundamentally sound in great sectors. I don't think there's anything to worry about, and liquidity is always going to be difficult when markets are falling. If there's anything, we saw it in COVID, it's difficult. But after a few days, things settle down. The margin calls, which I'm sure were made a few days back, have been done, and any selling which of some of these stocks has also been has been completed, and therefore you see a little bit more stability, which is what we've been seeing in the last 2 days, to be fair.
All right, of course, a lot has been made about the froth in the broader markets. Everyone is talking about it, including the regulator. But I mean, after this sharp correction, where the headliners, they have fallen by about 10-15%. I'm talking about the Nifty Midcap Index and the Nifty Small Cap Index. But the constituent stocks, they are down somewhere close to 20 to 30% in just a matter of weeks. I mean, are the prices, the stock prices, are they looking attractive, or would you want to wait and see them easing slightly further before initiating fresh positions?
Yeah, it's again, it goes back to each individual company and the share price fall. But what I would say is that if you're in a sector which you believe in over the longer term, then these are the opportunities you want to grab. In being able to kind of add to your holdings in those companies. So I think that's what will happen, is that it will. Those stocks which are anyway had weak fundamentals will continue to have weak fundamentals, but nothing's changed. It's not as though the economy's changed. It's not as though earnings growth has changed. And if you look around the world, you'll see many different stories about possible bubbles, whether it's from Bitcoin to the Magnificent Seven, and you're bound to have corrections. You can't go in a straight line all the time. So, use these opportunities, unless you're seeing something different than I am in terms of the economy, but nothing has changed.
Right, nothing has changed. But sir, the fear is real. I mean, I was reading another report which said that this correction could perhaps turn into this 2018 sort of a meltdown. Back then small caps gave away 45% from the peak. And I mean, if you are to draw parallels, there are some between then and now. What's your sense here?
No, I could draw that. You see, there's parallels. Yeah, I can give you parallels about the overall markets, globally to the late or early 90s
Hmm.
in terms of the tech bubble. But it's got to happen first, right? So what we have is momentum, and that's really what's been pushing share prices higher. And sometimes you can't fight that momentum until it stops. But what I would say about the small caps is what I've read as well is that a large proportion, 60 to 70% of the money going into small and mid caps has been through SIPs. Now
Hmm.
that's not stopping, to my mind. So, I don't think it's, chasing all these stocks. Might be individually some of them, but for the funds themselves, they've been getting steady flows. Now, if you take from 2018, I'm sure those flows would be a lot larger now into small and mid caps than they were back then.
All right, and what do you, I mean, do you like what the regulator is doing here, ringing alarm bells about the excess now, so perhaps there isn't a collapse later on?
See, I mean, I think again it goes back to your investor and their kind of time horizon. If you've got a longer term time horizon, and you're looking at the economy over the next 3 to 4 years. I mean, I was very fortunate to be at your conference 2 or 3 weeks ago, where everyone was talking about the economy being at least 10 trillion by the end of this decade. Now, has that changed? I don't think so. So if you've got that combination of strong economic growth, interest rates will fall. This is usually good for domestic small and mid cap companies in that environment. So again, if you pick well, pick the right sectors, I think you'll be fine.
All right, but what I really meant to ask was the regulators are stepping up and saying there is froth in the system, is because that is unprecedented. We do not hear from the regulator talking about the market movements on a day-to-day basis.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they had some feeling of uneasiness, and that's what they obviously articulated to the market. So let's see the stress test. Let's see how it comes out. Fortunately, the last 2 days have seen a little bit more I would say more settled kind of trades and getting back to normal.